Unfamiliar with our meeting, this is a hybrid meeting utilizing virtual meeting technology, including Zoom for our remote participants and a web-based portal for voting and queuing to speak for all participants, remote and in person. As always, the entire meeting is being broadcast live on Astound, formerly RCN, Channel 15, Digital 1125, and on High Def on 629, also on Verizon Channel 37 and Comcast Channel 22. And it is being streamed live on demand at LexMedia.org's website on their government live stream. So members of the public can follow the proceedings on cable TV or on LexMedia.org or by viewing in the balcony. So again, welcome to everyone, those who are here and those who are watching one of those methods. Those members of the public who wish to provide statements for or against a motion on the floor should identify themselves to the staff member who's located in the public balcony who can put you into the queue. That staff member will facilitate the process of seeking to be recognized by the moderator, and you'll be called on as time and parliamentary rules allow. Members of the public also had the opportunities to submit written statements on the town's website on the page dedicated to this annual town meeting, and they can continue to do so during this meeting. And so as those are received, those can be added to the queue as well by the staff person. And when I call on those folks, the staff person will read on their behalf. So at this time, please turn off all your cell phones, any other wireless devices, and turn off anything that makes noise. Thank you. And as you enter and leave the hall, you should do so as quietly as possible. And remember, no food or drink can be brought into the hall, but we do have a cafe open in the lobby if you get a little peckish. So for town meeting members participating in person, if any time you're having technical difficulty, please stand in place, raise your hand, and we'll have one of the IT staff persons come and help you. And if you are participating remotely, you should call the helpline 781-876-0093. We're now going to take attendance using our electronic voting on the portal. So I'll wait for staff to prepare that. And in order to register your attendance, it doesn't matter how you vote. It can be yes, no, or abstain. But the most important thing is to press the blue Cast Your Vote button and make sure you get the proper feedback by your name. It will tell you how you voted. If you don't see that, then press the pick a vote again and then press the blue Cast Your Vote button and make sure that you get the proper feedback. Mr. Cohen, what's your point of order?
Madam Moderator?
Yes, Mr. Cohen.
I was just having technical difficulties, and it looked like it was not, debate had not started, so I was just seeing if I was in the right place, but now it's started, so you can ignore my point of order.
Terrific, and we're glad you're here. All right, so I'm going to let that attendance vote go for a few minutes, and I'm going to ask for the Select Board Chair to give us a report from the Select Board meeting that occurred in the half hour before this meeting.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. The Select Board at its meeting this evening determined that given the immense amount of information that has come out, frankly, in the last 24 hours from the superintendent and the change of position of the school committee on the budget, which arose from the summit process, that another meeting of the summit participants is necessary before we can move forward on the budget. So we will tomorrow start working to arrange a date for that. And we are respectfully requesting, Madam Moderator, that the budget be postponed until following the meeting of the summit participants.
Okay, so what that means is both Article 4 and the consent agenda, which by a vote of the town meeting cannot take place until after Article 4. We will not take those up tonight. We'll take them up at a later date to be determined once we know what the date of the summit is. Means that we'll move forward with the other items on our agenda. You don't need to shake your head. I know what's coming, Ms. Fenolosa. We will take off of the consent agenda the funding budgets for the CPA article and vote on those so that we can then move ahead with those funds for the items that we're going to take up tonight. So again, just to explain for folks who, this is a lot of parliamentary mumbo jumbo. We will not take up Article 4 tonight. We will not take up Ms. McKenna's amendment, and we will not take up the consent agenda except to pull the CPA items out so we can move forward. So what we're going to do is take up Article 10. That's the CPA projects. We'll take up Article 12, the municipal capital projects, Article 16, public facilities capital projects, and Article 7, sustainable projects, and then, time permitting, Article 19, which is the stabilization funds, and then we'll see where we are, okay? All right, folks, so I'm going to give our folks here an opportunity to what, you don't want to watch the rest of this? Anyway, we'll see you again. We'll see you again. We'll welcome you back. We'll give you a couple of minutes. Okay, folks, let's get started. So the meeting is once again open under Article 2, the reports of town boards, officers, and committees. I'll first note that we clearly have a quorum, so we can continue with our business. And I'm going to ask Ms. Fenolosa for a motion to receive the report of the Community Preservation Committee and place it on file. Ms. Fenolosa. I'm sorry, I apologize. For what reason does a member rise?
I can't check in. Could I?
Give your name and precinct and we'll...
Carol Sacerdote, Precinct 4.
Okay.
Thank you.
Does the clerk have that? Okay, terrific, thank you. Just double checking, any folks who are remote who are having trouble voting to show that they are present? If so, unmute yourself in Zoom and get our attention. Okay, we can close the attendance, and we do have a quorum. Ms. Fenolosa, we're asking you for a motion to receive your report and place it on file.
So moved.
Thank you. Are there any objections to receiving that report and placing it on file? Seeing none, the motion carries. So we are now going to view that video.
Marilyn Fenolosa, here to give you a brief overview of the state of the Community Preservation Act in Lexington and take a quick look at this year's projects that will be coming up for your approval at town meeting. In this, our 20th anniversary year of CPA...
Could you pause that, and could somebody close the doors in the back, please? Thank you. You're on it already, thanks. Once those are closed, we can start the video. Thank you very much.
And much to be proud of. We are grateful to town meeting for their support of our projects, and to town meeting members and the community at large for their continued financial support through real estate taxes. And we are proud of our accomplishments over the years. Numbers are impressive. We have authorized $117.3 million in projects across the 4 categories of the Act. We have authorized $43.6 million in the historic resource category, enabling us to renovate our 3 historic houses, purchase and renovate the community center, renovate Cary Hall and Cary Library, and rehabilitate the Monroe Center for the Arts, all buildings that enhance the Lexington experience. We have restored our National Historic Landmark, Ballard Green, and the old burying ground, and preserved dozens of the earliest records of life in our town. With $20.7 million for open space, we have provided for the acquisition or preservation of 68 acres of conservation land, including the acquisition of the Busa Farm and Leary land, both of which have set-asides for affordable housing, as well as the Cotton Farm, the Wright Farm, and the Highland Avenue properties, and the preservation of many of our existing conservation lands, including the well-loved and well-used Willard's Woods and Whipple Hill. These conservation lands connect our trail systems and allow us to truly appreciate the benefits of our natural environment. As we know, there is a critical need for affordable housing in Lexington, and we have provided $21.5 million to acquire, rehabilitate, preserve, and support our portfolio of community housing for low and moderate income families and seniors. This includes 43 new units of housing, as well as the preservation and rehabilitation of existing properties owned and managed by the Lexington Housing Authority and LexHab. Our new Affordable Housing Trust has already enabled the creation of 5 new units of housing and has plans to assist in the development of the lands on Lowell and Vine Streets. We thrive on recreational opportunities, and with $31.5 million of CPA funds, we have supported 80 recreational resources, including playfields and playgrounds, tennis and basketball courts, the Minuteman across Lexington and West Lexington Greenway bicycle paths, the golf course at Pine Meadows, and a new skate park in the center playfields, a town-wide accessibility study of our recreational facilities, and new accessible facilities at our neighborhood parks and the paths at Parker Meadows and Willard's Woods, renovations to the old res, lighting, irrigation, and drainage improvements at athletic fields across the town, the total restoration of our town pool, and our impressive center track and fields. All of these projects have been completed without putting pressure on the municipal budget for schools, roads, public buildings, necessary expenditures that might have made it impossible to fund these quality of life projects. Here is a graphic illustration of the projects cumulative through the 20 years ended fiscal year 26. The category percentages are a bit misleading. The second graph shows the change in category percentages over time. As you can see, the beginning years of CPA had more variation due to the outsized effect large dollar appropriations had on the total funding. For example, historic resources saw a large spike in fiscal years 2014 and 2015 to the acquisition and renovation of the community center, as well as the renovation of Cary Hall. Open space spiked when we purchased Busa and Leary. Over time, these large dollar appropriations have diminished and the categories begun to even out. We are grateful for the continued contribution of funding from the state's Community Preservation Trust Fund, receiving $1.2 million last November for fiscal year 26. We note this is the lowest percentage match since CPA's inception, but we recognize the inevitability of this reduction due to diminished real estate transaction fees generated across the state, which are the major source of CPA funding. This reduction has been caused by the decline of actual sales and refinancings in the face of higher interest rates. Additional pressure is put on the trust fund as more communities adopt CPA. We now share the CPA pool with 200 other cities and towns, and the state's new financial burdens have eliminated any state surplus distributions, as has happened in the past. This slide shows you our financial situation going into town meeting. The beginning balance of our Community Preservation Fund is $13.45 million, based on increased local surcharge receipts, but also reflecting an anticipated further reduction to 15% in the matching distribution from the state. The estimated surcharge is based on residential taxes, which average $574.90 for fiscal year 26, based on an average single-family home value of $1,656,734, and the contributions of our commercial base of $1,459,689, representing approximately 20% of the total. This state match for next year is based on a conservative 15%. If you approve all our recommended projects for fiscal year 27, we will have a balance of about $5 million to carry over to next year, of which approximately $2 million is earmarked for open space, and the remaining $2.8 million is unrestricted. The unrestricted funds will also be available for funding extraordinary or time-sensitive projects that we might bring to you in a special town meeting in the fall. It's important to note that as of this year, we have no outstanding CPA project debt, and therefore no debt service article. As will be noted in a few minutes, we anticipate no further debt in the immediate future due to the conversion of previously authorized debt for the rehabilitation of Monroe Center for the Arts to cash financing. Now, a quick look at this year's projects for your approval. All projects are unanimously recommended by the Community Preservation Committee and determined to be eligible for CPA funding by Town Council. Each project is further described in a separate video prepared by the project sponsor, posted on the Town Meeting website. Document Conservation Article 10A for $20,000 is part of a multi-year program to conserve the town's most important historical records. This year, we will be preserving police department journals from 1923 to 27, marriage intention ledgers from 1918 to 27, a police department arrest ledger from 1921 to 1926, and a tax collector's book from 1899 to 1910. The documents have been determined to be historic resources by the Lexington Historical Commission and thus eligible for CPA funding. These records provide an important picture of our town's early history and must be preserved to ensure their continued integrity. Incidental to the project is the complete digitization of the documents to permit greater public access. As noted above, 10B reflects the town's preference for cash transactions over debt financing, and since we have a surplus of CPA funds this year, the Finance Department has requested that we rescind the outstanding $2 million debt authorization for the renovation of the Monroe Center for the Arts and replace it with a cash appropriation of equal amount. At Special Town Meeting 2022-3, Town Meeting members authorized the creation of the Affordable Housing Trust as a means of increasing the affordable housing stock in Lexington. Article 10C provides $3.2 million to finance the purchase price, holding, and other costs associated with the acquisition and/or development of new affordable homes. The town continues to face challenges in making competitive offers on properties with the current system of waiting for approval from the annual town meeting. The funding of our Affordable Housing Trust allows it to become far more flexible, taking advantage of the current real estate market and successfully bidding on new properties. Town Meeting previously approved $3 million in fiscal year 26, $3.2 million in fiscal year 2025, and $1.5 million in fiscal year 2024 for similar purposes. This article, Article 10D, for $395,355, will provide funding to the Lexington Housing Assistance Board, or LexHAB, Lexington's longtime funder of affordable housing, for the preservation and rehabilitation of 31 of their affordable housing units, including roof, door, and window replacements, chimney repairs, walkways, and similar building upgrades. Included in the total request is $144,480 in rental assistance to subsidize units with tenants below minimum rent requirements. LexHAB tenants pay 30% of their income toward rent, but other than for the few tenants who have rental vouchers, LexHAB must subsidize the rents to make the units affordable. Article 10E, $2,630,000 for improvements of the athletic fields at Harrington Field, supplements prior funding for the construction of 2 natural grass rectangular fields when the school central administration building at Old Harrington School is demolished. The new fields are needed to address the shortfall in playing areas caused by increasing demand, exacerbated by the new high school construction project. Approximately 1,200 hours of field use will be gained by this project. The total project cost to create these fields is approximately $3.8 million, of which $1,197,904 of CPA funds were approved at last year's town meeting. Prior to that, $100,000 were appropriated from the general fund at the 2024 special town meeting for design, engineering, and architectural services for the field. Article 10F requests $100,000 for the creation of fencing around the playgrounds at Bridge and Fisk Elementary Schools. The project is needed to keep the children safe from unwanted visitors, walkers, dogs, coyotes, who wander through the playgrounds through school hours. Fencing will also enable the school to restrict access to damaged and unsafe facilities. The fencing will be made of black vinyl, 4 feet high, and is projected to last at least 25 years. This request, Article 10G, is for our yearly appropriation of $150,000 to meet the administrative expenses of the Community Preservation Committee, legal fees, appraisals, member dues to the statewide Community Preservation Coalition, and, importantly, the salary and benefits of our shared administrator assistant. As always, any funds not actually spent during any fiscal year are returned to the undesignated fund balance of the town's Community Preservation Fund. Final word. We extend our thanks to the Finance Department, especially Carolyn Kosanoff, Assistant Town Manager of Finance, and the members of the Appropriation and Capital Expenditures Committees for their support and good counsel. We hope you will agree that for 20 years, the Community Preservation Act has been and will continue to be an important source of funding for our town, providing welcoming open space, quality affordable housing, enhanced recreation facilities, and preservation of our most important historic resources, and we're grateful for your continued support.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to this presentation, and please contact us if we can provide additional information and answers to your questions.
Thank you. I'm going to ask Ms. Hay for a motion to next take up Article 10.
Madam Moderator, I so move.
Is there any objection to that motion? Seeing none, the motion carries. So the meeting is now open on Article 10, Appropriate for Fiscal Year 2027 Community Preservation Committee Operating Budget and CPA Projects. We're going to be taking up all of those items that are not on the consent agenda, so that's A, B, and G, but we are pulling out the funding buckets at the beginning of the motion, and we will vote on those before we start appropriating money from those buckets. The motion is dated March 9th, 2026, and on file with the town clerk. Ms. Fenolosa for that motion.
Madam Moderator, I so move.
Thank you, Ms. Fenolosa. So we are first going to take up the funding buckets. So that is that the town reserve for appropriation the following amounts from estimated fiscal year 2027 receipts as recommended by the Community Preservation Committee. $867,000 for the acquisition, creation, and preservation of open space, $867,000 for the acquisition, preservation, rehabilitation, and restoration of historic resources, $867,000 for the acquisition, creation, preservation, and support of community housing, and $6,069,000 to the unbudgeted reserve. Are there any questions or comments about those funding buckets? Ms. Coburn at the question mic. I just want to remind folks that in order to speak, you need to get yourself into the virtual queue. Ms. Coburn.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. I'm not sure if this is the right time to ask this question, but it's about the overall budget of the CPA this year. I'm in Precinct 4, by the way.
Go ahead.
To Ms. Fenolosa, I looked at the 5-year plan for the CPA funds and noticed that there's nothing in that 5-year plan to cover the replacement of the playing fields that will be lost when the high school project is built. And I'm curious why that is.
Ms. Fenolosa.
Thank you for the question. The reason I didn't answer you sooner is because I didn't have an answer myself until this afternoon. I can either call on the source of the information or I can try to paraphrase, and he will correct me if I misstate anything, please. Apparently, when we applied for the school funding of the high school. They wanted the Massachusetts School Building Authority wanted a complete package of the financing. That is, they did not want some funding for a part of the project from here, some funding from part of the project from over here. So it was all combined into one package that was submitted. If down the road, if it's okay with that agency, then we could arguably pull out some of the funding, because certainly the restoration of playing fields would be an eligible project under the CPA. But that would be up to as I say, the agency as well as the school committee, if that's how they want to proceed.
Ms. Colburn.
Thank you very much. And that information about the MSBA restriction, did that come from town council?
Ms. Fenolosa.
No, it came from a member of the appropriation committee.
Ms. Colburn.
If I could ask the member of the appropriation committee where that information came from.
Thank you. Mr. Parker.
I believe what I said was that I wasn't sure if the MSBA would allow this kind of appropriation because it was part of a larger budget, so we don't really know what we can do in terms of pulling out pieces of that budget, funding them through separate mechanisms. And I would want to have to check on that. I said we should talk with the school building committee to verify that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. That makes a lot of sense. It seems, I haven't read the MSBA regulations. It seems to me that just because the voters approve a debt exclusion shouldn't mean that we have to use excluded debt for an expense, but I really appreciate you looking into it and keeping an open mind about that. And if, in order for the CPC to take this up at some point, would there need to be a request from the school committee or the select board or the school building committee?
Ms. Fenolosa.
Yes, we can only respond to requests for financing. We can't generate them ourselves.
Great. Thank you very much.
Mr. Anderson, what's your point of order?
Can you hear me? Yeah.
Yes.
Mark Anderson, Precinct 9. Madam Moderator, I apologize if my brain is a little foggy. I recollect at that last town meeting that we were going through the consent agenda. We put it on the table. Does that mean that we finalized the process of pulling items out of the consent agenda, or how does that relate to what we're doing tonight?
So we are not taking up the consent agenda tonight. The moderator has discretion to pull an item out, and this is an item that places money in buckets, and ostensibly if we're going to be appropriating it, we ought to do that first. So I'm taking it out for separate vote.
So tonight we'll vote on the items from the CPA budget?
No, just the funding buckets, not the appropriations.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Shine with a question.
Ken Shine, Precinct 2. I'm sorry, I didn't understand that last answer. Could you repeat the answer?
We're not taking up the consent agenda tonight, but there is one item that we need to do before we can make appropriations to the CPA projects, and that's the funding buckets. It's the lines that I just read out loud. So I've pulled those off of the consent agenda, and we are going to take a vote on those as soon as I finish fielding questions about it.
Okay. Well, through you, Madam Moderator, to Ms. Fenolosa. And correct me if I'm wrong, part of the funding comes from Lexington residents and comes from the state. Could you remind me, please, where the state funding comes from?
Ms. Fenolosa.
Of course. It comes from deed fees. When real estate transactions happen, either the acquisition of a new property or refinancing, anything that requires action by the Registry of Deeds, there's a fee associated with that, and that fee is allocated to a special fund at the state level that is then distributed to all of the CPA communities every November.
Mr. Shine.
Through you, Madam Moderator, could you remind us of the amount of that fee?
Ms. Fenolosa.
The amount that we received this year?
Excuse me, no, please remind me of the amount per transaction at the registry.
Ooh, I think so.
Ms. Fenolosa.
Madam Moderator.
Mr. Lamb.
Well, she's looking that up. Page 13 of the CEC report has a very detailed breakdown of the contributions from the state for the past gazillion years.
Thank you.
Do you remember? It's 15? Hold on.
Mr. Macarios.
Madam Moderator, based on a quick review, the deed stamp tax is based on the price or the cost involved in a transfer. I believe the current amount is about $2.28 for every $500 in a transaction.
Mr. Shine.
Through you, Madam Moderator. Does anyone ever calculate if Lexington residents, when they pay this fee, does anyone ever calculate the cumulative amount of residents in Lexington that pay this fee and compare it to the amount that Lexington receives back from the state? I'm trying to understand if we are net gainers or losers in this process.
Ms. Fenolosa, or if there's anyone else who can address that.
I'm sorry, I was still looking for the first...
He's asking, he's looking for a comparison of fees that are paid on those transactions by Lexington residents versus the amount of money we receive back from the state for CPA purposes. Thank you. Mr. Bartha.
I do not believe we've done that analysis, but just as a note, the transactional fees are charged whether a community is or is not a CPA community. So the fees would be paid regardless of whether the town participated in the CPA, but we could ask that question if that's a point of interest.
Mr. Shine.
Excuse me, I just wish if that comparison was included in CPA reports. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Blyer with a question.
This probably sounds like a rookie question, but we were just told that we are voting on the buckets, not on the appropriations.
Correct.
So can you please explain what specifically and how we are voting on buckets?
The statute...
I'm sorry. I read the motion. You heard that, right? The setting aside of the buckets. So can I understand your question better?
Madam Moderator, may I try?
All right, let's let Ms. Fenolosa obviously has an answer.
A little bit, anyway. See if this works. The state statute requires that all the money we receive, both from the state and from local taxes, be aggregated, and then 10% of that amount go into these designated buckets, and then the rest of it goes into undesignated reserves. Whenever we have a project that is in one of those categories, we try to dive into the bucket first to use up the money, because that money can only be spent for that particular project or banked for a future year, either this year or another year. But if it goes into the housing bucket, it can only be used for housing. But that's only 10% of the total. And the same for historic resources and for open space. The remainder of the 70% goes into unbudgeted reserves, so that if there is not enough money in any given bucket, then we go into the extra reserve and...
Mr. Parker.
I might be able to cut this short. Could you answer, are we going to vote on the items in Article 10 tonight, all the appropriations?
No.
Okay.
We are going to vote the items, the appropriations that are not on the consent agenda, but we are going to pull off of the consent agenda the designation into each of these buckets.
But we are going to vote on the appropriations in Article 10.
That are not on the consent
that
agenda,
are not
yes.
on the consent agenda.
Yes.
Thank you.
Mr. Luker with a question.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. Through you to Ms. Fenolosa. I wanted to make sure I understood the $2 million that was available in the fund that was allowing us to refinance or pay off the Monroe debt. That's that was remaining in the fund because of a lack of worthwhile projects that were submitted, or a lack of any projects at all?
The latter, Madam Moderator.
Through you.
The latter. We had excess funds left over this year, and so we decided that as long as we had them, it did not make sense to go ahead and incur long-term debt, that we would apply some of that cash, those cash reserves that we had on hand, to retire the debt. And I would, are you in here? Could you wave so I know who I'm talking to?
No, I'm sorry, I'm remote tonight.
Oh, okay.
I am going to ask that anyone who has questions about A, B, or G, hold those until we take them up in the consent agenda, and that includes the Monroe piece. Are there any more?
I understand. Madam Moderator, excuse me. This wasn't specifically about the Monroe. I just
Oh,
wanted
no,
to understand,
I allowed your question. I just wanted to clarify for folks.
Okay.
Yeah. Mr. Luker, do you have a follow-up?
Yes, through you to Ms. Finalosa. What is the typical amount remaining at the after all the projects have been funded? Is $2 million like an exceptional amount to be left over?
Ms. Fenolosa.
About $1.5 million.
I'm sorry, could you repeat that?
$1,500,000 approximately left over in prior years from the projects. This year we had five projects, 6 projects. In prior years we've had 10 or 11 or 12 projects. Unexpected, but that's how it turned out. So we ended up with an excess of cash that we had not anticipated.
Mr. Luker, any follow-up?
No, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Michelson in the yes line.
Thanks, Madam Moderator. Eric Michelson, Precinct 1. Just to clarify the answer to Mr. Shine's question, currently, every time a deed is filed or a mortgage is recorded, the $50 fee, a surcharge is charged upon that, and that builds up goes to the CPA trust fund to be distributed to communities. In addition to that, when a municipality files a lien on a property, that also has a $25 surcharge that goes into the trust fund also.
Thank you for the clarification. Mr. Howry with a question.
Jeff Howry, Precinct 2. Through you, Madam Moderator, to Ms. Fenolosa or whoever. Last year, I recall we voted over $2 million for the demolition of the school. And this year we're asked to vote additional monies. Can you clarify what portion of the CPA Act authorizes use of a demolition of a non-historic building?
No part whatsoever. I'm sorry, Madam Moderator. No part whatsoever. The demolition was part of the other capital expenditure budget for the high school. It had the only thing that we did with regard to that property was to authorize money to restore the fields that the property was sitting on, but we didn't authorize a dime to demolish it.
Okay. Thank you
Mr.
for the
Lowry.
clarification. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. McGaugh with a question.
Madam Moderator, Bridger McGaugh, Precinct 6. Through you to Ms. Fenolosa. Could you just clarify for me, so the CPC cannot suggest projects, they can only receive applications about projects?
Ms. Fenolosa.
That has been our policy, that we don't go looking for projects. If there is something, and there has been in the past, something that we see on the budget that could possibly be funded with CPA funds, we will reach out and suggest that to the project manager and see if it would be an appropriate project to transfer over. But we don't decide, well, the library needs a roof this year, so let's do a library roof. It's up to the library to tell us that it's an appropriate expense for this year, and this is how it should be funded.
Mr. McGaugh.
Madam Moderator, through you. So it's a matter of policy to not go soliciting projects, but you can recommend to the Select Board projects to utilize the balance or the future receipts of CPA money?
Ms. Fenolosa?
I think if we were aware of them, yes.
Mr. McGaugh?
Madam Moderator, through you to the Select Board. We noticed in the Capital Expenditures Committee in front of us that there are numerous TBDs or blanks in the areas of affordable housing under a lot of the different categories in the CPC project itself or conservation. Since these are areas that are part of a 5-year capital plan, and we have very detailed receipts for the last few years and probably can push those into the future a bit, are there plans to actually advise the CPC to think about projects or to actually budget for projects on our 5-year capital plan using CPC money?
Ms. Hay?
Madam Moderator, annually our Assistant Town Manager for Finance does meet with, I believe, all of the finance committees and the CPC and talks through what projects would be appropriate for CPA funds. So that is part of the planning each year.
Mr. McGaugh?
Madam Moderator, through you. So it's an annual process, not part of a 5-year capital planning process.
Ms. Hay?
Thank you, Madam Moderator. Through you, we actually do have a 5-year plan, but we are adjusting every year based on the realities of what's in the fund because we do not know exactly what the state match is going to be until it comes in.
Mr. McGaugh?
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Shapiro with a question.
Peter Shapiro, Precinct 4, Madam Moderator, through you to Mrs. Fenolosa. Is there any scenario under which, if the CPC has excess money, it doesn't have enough projects to spend the money that it has on hand on, is there any scenario under which some of those funds could be recaptured by the town, for example, to go to free cash or some other purposes that are outside of the CPC budget, bucket?
I don't think so.
Ms. Fenolosa?
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm out of practice. Madam Moderator, I don't think so. I think that once it is money that has been allocated to the CPC, to the Community Preservation Fund of Lexington, it has to stay there.
So you say, I don't think so, but are you sure?
Mr. Shapiro, I'm going to ask
sure.
Town Council for a definitive answer.
Please, yeah, thank you.
Mr. Makarios?
CPA revenue goes in a completely different bucket. It doesn't come because it's a surcharge on the taxes, so it stays in that bucket absent the town completely getting rid of the CPA, and I'm not aware of any that have gone back to that. That's the buckets it stays in.
So, Madam Moderator, so there's no mechanism by which that cash can be accessed for other purposes in the town. It's just totally blocked off.
Mr. Makarios?
That's correct.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, folks, seeing no one else in line, we are going to ask for us to show just the reservations into the 4 buckets. That's what we're going to vote on first. So it's those lines 1, 2, 3, and 4 in the original Article 10 motion. Could we show that on the screen? Okay, so it's everything from that the town reserved for appropriation through item 4, $6,069,000 to the unbudgeted reserve. So it's all of that text there, the text that I read earlier. So we're going to vote just on reserving funds in those buckets. So all those in favor, press yes. All those opposed, press no. Please make sure to press the blue cast your vote button and make sure you get the proper feedback. Yes. Oh, yes. I should probably ask for some recommendations. Is that what you're about to say?
I was not going to ask for that.
Okay. What else did I do wrong?
But
the list is long tonight, guys.
But the title of this motion says budget and CPA projects. We're only funding the CPA.
We're going to fix that while I ask for the appropriate recommendations. So thank you for slowing things down. Sorry, folks. Ms. Hay for the recommendation of the Select Board.
Actually, I believe it's Mr. Sandin.
Mr. Sandin for the recommendation of the Select Board.
Madam Moderator, the Select Board, can you hear me?
Yes, thank you.
Madam Moderator, the Select Board is unanimously in support of all CPA articles.
Thank you. Thank you. Duly noted. Mr. Lamb for the Capital Expenditures Committee.
Capital Expenditures Committee unanimously recommends approval of this motion.
Thank you. Yes.
Thank you, Madam Moderator.
Thank you. Ms. Kumar. Sorry, I apologize.
This is Vanita Barla.
Yes, thank you.
Appropriation Committee voted to approve this, to recommend approval of this.
Okay. Thank you. So we have unanimous recommendations on these reservation buckets from all three. And have we fixed the voting screen? Yes. So now it says funding. So all those in favor of the motion, press yes. All opposed, press no. Please press the blue cast your vote button and make sure you get the proper feedback. Again, we are just voting on reserving those buckets of money in lines 1, 2, 3, and 4. Yes. Sure. I think all that we've done is renamed that slide. Can I get it? Can I get a hell yeah or no?
Yes.
Yes.
It's
okay.
just the label changed.
Just the label changed, yeah, because the moderator's heavy abstain vote is in there too. Okay. Anyone having trouble voting, please stand in place and we can take a voice vote. And folks who are remote, please unmute yourself in Zoom and let me know if you need to vote by voice. Okay, seeing none, we're going to close the vote. In this matter, 172 having voted in the affirmative, 0 in the negative, and 4 abstaining, the motion carries and it is unanimous. All right, now we are going to take up 10C, the Affordable Housing Trust funding. So this is 10C, and we're going to view the video from the chair of the Affordable Housing Trust.
Elaine Tung, Chair of the Affordable Housing Trust. Thank you for listening to our presentation on Article 10C. The Affordable Housing Trust is asking Town Meeting to approve its request to fund the trust with CPA funds in the amount of $3,200,000. Substantially funding the trust is key to the trust's effectiveness and ability to respond to market conditions in a nimble and judicious manner. This gives the trust the opportunity to fund future affordable housing development, to capitalize on MBTA and special residential developments by creating additional inclusionary units or deepening affordability, to consider funding requests throughout the year from LexHab and Lexington Housing Authority, to support Lexington low and moderate income residents, and to preserve existing affordable housing. HUD defines a household as cost-burdened if it spends more than 30% of its income on housing, severely cost-burdened if it spends more than 50% of its income on housing. Lexington is a wealthy town, but not everyone in Lexington is wealthy. Over 26% of total Lexington households are cost-burdened due to housing costs. Of the 81% Lexington owner households, almost a quarter of these are cost-burdened. 47% of the renter households are cost-burdened, with 27% of renters being severely cost-burdened. One way to measure demand for affordable housing in Lexington is to review the wait lists for Avalon, LexHab, and Lexington Housing Authority. These lists are lengthy, with waits anywhere from 3 to 8 years. We should also consider the likelihood of getting into one of these rental homes. The 2024 LexHab rental lottery recipient had a 2.7% chance of being awarded a home. The chance for a restricted ownership home is even lower. The October 2025 Miriam Street lottery for an ownership home had less than a 2% chance of being awarded. Lexington also has the second lowest percentage of restricted ownership homes among regional housing service office communities at just 5% of our affordable housing stock, or less than 1% of our total housing stock. During this past fiscal year, with 31 Affordable Housing Trust meetings, as well as dozens of meetings with other committees, the Select Board, town staff, state officials, and multifamily housing developers, the major highlights of what the Affordable Housing Trust has accomplished are: first, the Affordable Housing Trust has actively supported the Lexington Woods development since town meeting authorized the Select Board in April of 2024 to sell, lease, or dispose of parcel 6844 for affordable housing. Second, by buying down market rate units to affordable units or deepening income affordability, the Trust is leveraging CPA funds to create affordable units with price points at much lower levels than previously approved by the town. Third, with town staff assistance, the Trust filed a grant in June of 2025 to the state's One Stop for Growth Housing Works Infrastructure Program. The town was awarded $1,600,000 this past October. The Affordable Housing Trust will use these funds to buy down additional units or deepen income affordability. And fourth, the Affordable Housing Trust provided a grant in the amount of $1,100,000 in connection with the LexApp purchase, which creates 2 additional units to be added to the town's subsidized housing inventory, and also serves to preserve an existing modest-sized Lexington home. The Affordable Housing Trust has guided Lexington Woods from the Select Board's June 2024 request for proposal to the Board of Appeals' January 2026 decision to approve a comprehensive permit. We are in discussions with MBTA and SRD multifamily developers in order to buy down additional market rate units to affordable units, as well as deepening income affordability. As new multifamily MBTA SRD developments come online, there will be additional opportunities for the Trust to leverage funds for buy-downs. Developing a housing assistance program for tenants is a priority Trust goal. Housing assistance programs help address housing affordability and prevent homelessness. The Trust is currently working on a pilot tenant rental assistance program to help those lower-income households who need financial assistance in order to bridge the affordability gap to stabilize their housing costs. This is especially pressing in light of federal cutbacks and decreased state funding for housing and rent vouchers, food SNAP assistance, utility LIHEAP assistance, and mass health premiums and benefits. The 2025 town meeting passed Warrant Article 23, which authorizes the Select Board to sell, lease, or dispose of the town-owned parcel on Vine Street for the purpose of affordable housing. When the town issues the request for proposal, the Trust anticipates that the developer will be coming to the Trust for funding. Lexington Housing Authority is considering several sites that they currently own to develop affordable housing. They have indicated that they will be coming to the Trust in the spring of 2026 with a request for pre-development funds, followed by a request the following year for additional development funding. Finally, we see an opportunity for the creation of additional affordable homes by our housing partners developing accessory dwelling units on properties they already own. The Affordable Housing Trust is able to react quickly to market and other opportunities, a major step forward from the need to rely only on project approvals at infrequent town meetings. The Trust intends to continue funding those opportunities, which will leverage available funds that fit with the Trust's values of preserving and creating affordable housing for households with a diverse range of incomes, and prioritizing those households with lower incomes. We are at the beginning of a long journey to address our affordable housing crisis, and we need continued sustained funding for current projects, as well as to build up a balance for future projects. By investing in one another, we are investing in our shared future. We respectfully request that town meeting fund the Affordable Housing Trust for $3,200,000 for fiscal year 2027. Thank you for your consideration. This is Elaine Tung, Chair.
Thank you. Ms. Fenolosa has already indicated that the Community Preservation Committee is unanimously in favor of all the items under Article 10. Mr. Sandeen has said the same for the Select Board. Mr. Sandeen, do you have anything else you want to say about this particular item, 10C?
Yes, Madam Moderator. This request for $3.2 million will provide funding to meet the Select Board approved goals for the Affordable Housing Trust, including supporting the creation of 40 units at Lowell Street, parcel 6844, implementation of multifamily buy-down programs, supporting construction of accessory dwelling units, and providing funding for LexHab and the Lexington Housing Authority's development plans, as well as assisting Lexington residents in accessing and maintaining housing. And the Select Board is unanimously in favor of Article 10C.
Thank you. For the Capital Expenditures Committee, Mr. Lamb.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. The committee supports the CPC's recommendation to provide $3.2 million funding to the AHT in FY 2027, as there were no other competing projects for CPF funds. Thank you.
Thank you. And for the Appropriation Committee, Ms. Verma.
Madam Moderator, the Appropriation Committee unanimously recommends approval of 10C. We also unanimously recommend approval of 10D, E, and F. Thank you.
Thank you very much. For the Commission on Disability, Ms. Buckley.
The Commission on Disability unanimously supports 10C, and we appreciate the town taking affordable housing and accessible housing as an important thing to look at. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Shapiro with a question.
Peter Shapiro, Precinct 4. Madam Moderator, through you to the Select Board, the largest item in the expectation of where funding would go from the AHT to the CPC was the Vine Street project, $3 million in fiscal year 27, another $3 million in fiscal year 28, for a total of $6 million for what looks like it might be a 6-unit project if it proceeds. So through you, Madam Moderator, to the Select Board, last year we authorized Select Board to put out an RFP for the Vine Street project. What's the status of that RFP now?
Mr. Sandin.
Madam Moderator, could I refer that question to the town manager?
With pleasure. Mr. Bartha.
The RFP has not been developed yet.
RFP has not been, I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
Sorry, the RFP has not been developed yet.
Not been developed yet.
Mr. Shapiro.
So is that on the, Madam Moderator, back to Mr. Bartha, is there a plan during this next year? Is there a time at which this RFP is expected to be developed?
Mr. Bartha.
Madam Moderator, there has been some discussion at the staff level that this needs to come back to the Select Board for some discussion before an RFP can be developed, because there is some guidance that staff will need in order to develop the RFP.
Okay, so Madam Moderator, through you, I take it then that this RFP is not in progress at this point. That sounds like.
Mr. Bartha.
Yes, that is correct.
So Madam Moderator, through you to Ms. Tung for the AHT, given that this is, the AHT is asking for $3 million for next year's cost, looking at this, at the Vine Street project as a recipient of this, and then another $3 million the year after, a total of $6 million. If this RFP doesn't actually happen, what is the plan for that $6 million that you were looking to use funds for?
Ms. Tung.
Madam Moderator, through you. So when you're looking at our chart, we are identifying potential projects that might be coming to the Affordable Housing Trust. So not only is there Vine Street, we do have a project coming through Lexington Housing Authority, which we believe very strongly will be coming to us, as well as we will be continuing to do buy-downs of units at MBTA and as well as SRD developments. We have other programs. We have just approved a pilot rental assistance tenant program. So these all require funding. We will not have sufficient funds to do all of these, and that would include doing Vine Street as well as everything else. We will have to make that decision when the application comes to us.
So,
Mr. Shapiro.
Madam Moderator, through you to Ms. Tung. So last year we had interactions about the Vine Street project. We received information from AHT from you that if the town were to subsidize a developer for Vine Street, it would be most likely in the form of, on the RFP, specifying that the town would provide this much funding, this much debt, this much support, and then the developer could go forward and understand what their financing structure would be based on that. Is that how you would plan to proceed in this case if the town actually does proceed with an RFP?
Ms. Tung.
Madam Moderator, through you. So I think what would happen is that if the town issues an RFP, whatever developer is planning on responding to that RFP is going to need funding, because in order to get approved for an RFP, they have to show that they have the ability to finance it. and there's going to be extremely limited options for the developer to obtain financing. And we would be an obvious choice, the Affordable Housing Trust. It would not be part of the RFP what our financing obligation would be. They would have to come to us, and we would have to look obviously at their qualifications and then issue a commitment, which would be part of the developer's application and part of their request for proposal response.
So,
Mr. Shapiro.
Madam Moderator, through you, Ms. Tong.
You have 10 seconds.
Oh, okay. The average investment in the Lowell Street project was $12,500 per unit. The historical that Ms. Fenolosa showed us was $50,000 per unit. Vine Street, we're talking about $1 million per unit for 6 units. Is this something you think would actually happen the way it's been forecast, or is that just creating a bucket of money which might be spent on Vine Street or perhaps on other projects?
Ms. Tung.
Through you, Madam Moderator, so I'm not sure where you're getting the $12,500 per unit or the $50,000 per unit. I believe the slide that was shown on the CPA, Ms. Fenolosa's slide, actually is talking about prior years going back to the beginning of CPA 2006, where they created 43 units. So that's where that amount comes from. So again, we will evaluate each application as it comes to us. Our priority at the Trust is to leverage town funds in the most responsible, disciplined manner in which we can do so.
May I clarify, Madam Moderator?
I'm afraid your time is up. I apologize.
Thank you.
Mr. Padaki.
Sanjay Padaki, Precinct 8. Madam Moderator, while the monies that we appropriate into the AHT are waiting for a project, how are they invested, short-term or medium-term or long-term?
Ms. Tong.
Madam Moderator, may I ask Ms. Kosnoff to respond?
With pleasure. Ms. Kosnoff.
Through you, Madam Moderator. The AHT follows right now the same investment rules that all of our other portfolios are. So right now it is invested in MMDT, which is where the majority of the town's general fund is, and the interest that accrues on that specifically does stay with the Affordable Housing Trust.
Mr. Padaki.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Gutag in the public balcony.
Madam Moderator, Town Meeting members, Olga Gutag, Precinct 6, former school committee member. Thank you for letting me address you on the CPA budget. I'd like to thank Ms. Fenolosa, the CPA committee members, and the many volunteers who helped CPA decide how to allocate these precious resources over the years. It breaks my heart to advocate against this article, since we badly need affordable housing. But it is clear that in the near future, we are entering a period, thanks to Trump's skillful destruction of mass economy, that Lexington and Massachusetts will be extremely fiscally constrained. This year, we already have to do something unprecedented in order to fund our schools. Use the state's 75% reimbursement of qualified special education expenses before we get money back from the state. I share Ms. Colburn's concern over not using whatever CPA funds are eligible for the Bloom project. I would like to support this line of thinking. Until now, we have used CPA funds for nice-to-have projects, vast majority of which I strongly support. However, at this point in time, I hope that our finance committees and town meeting and the Board of Selectmen will strongly consider to either eliminate the CPA tax surcharge from our taxes or use the CPA funds only for absolutely necessary projects that preserve our current level of services. The restructuring of the LHS fields and is an excellent example where we need to aggressively negotiate with MSBA and separate that part of the project from the MSBA funded part of Bloom. We know that we'll have even bigger budget deficits in the next few years. And if we want residents to even consider supporting future needed overrides, then we need to open more taxing capacity by either eliminating the CPA surcharges or lower the costs of annual budgets by funding regularly needed budgetary items from the CPA funds. I very regretfully urge you to vote against this article. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Heinrich with a question.
Steve Heinrich, Precinct 3. Through you, Madam Moderator, a question from Ms. Fenolosa. I just want to be sure that I understand this. As I understand it, we allocated $2 million in the past for the Vine Street project. I just want to be sure we're not adding, the $3.2 million is not for Vine Street, is that correct?
Ms. Fenolosa.
The $3.2 million may include the Vine Street because that's money that's going directly to the AHT for them to decide how it should be allocated. The $2 million for Vine Street in the past, I think this property was purchased in 2011, 2012, something like that. And that allocation at that time was to purchase the property and to set aside, and as part of that, some of the property, I think it was a half an acre or something like that, was set aside for housing. It has not been developed since. There was a town meeting between that time and now. You perhaps you remember when LexHab came in asking for money, but withdrew it. They requested that they had planned to redevelop the property, but they withdrew their request and asked that it be indefinitely postponed because they found the project to be too expensive at the time.
Mr. Heinrich.
Am I to understand there is no amount of money that comes from the CPA budget that is purely allocated to the Vine Street project at this time? In other words, there is flexibility from the Affordable Housing Trust as to whether to help fund Vine Street or use the funds in some other way for affordable housing.
Ms. Fenolosa.
Madam Moderator, yes, that's correct. There is no money allocated to Vine Street directly to whom? We don't have a developer. We don't have a request from LexHab or the Housing Authority or anybody else to fund a project on Vine Street. What we do have is a request from the AHT to provide funding should this project come to fruition in the near future.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Shine with a question.
Ken Shine, Precinct 2, through you, Madam Moderator. To Ms. Fenolosa, I'd like you to clarify that if we vote no on this article, that means the town will not get these funds, and it is not the case that if we don't allocate the funds to the Affordable Housing Trust, that we could use those funds for something else.
Ms. Fenolosa.
I will restate because I'm not sure which the negative was.
I'm sorry.
No. Madam Moderator, if we vote down this money, then the allocation would go back into the affordable housing bucket to the extent it came out of it, with the remainder going into the unbudgeted reserve bucket. But as Council Markarias told us a few minutes ago, that money cannot be used for example, building roads, schools, infrastructure. That can only be used for other CPA-eligible projects.
Mr. Shine.
Through you, Madam Moderator, I'm trying to understand, if we vote no, will we lose this, excuse me, if we vote no, will we lose this money from the state?
No, 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 no.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Weiss in the yes line.
Betsy Weiss, Precinct 2. I support the AHT request. So back in 2009, when we bought the Leary property, which was Vine Street, $600,000 was for 30,000 square feet, which the Leary farmhouse was on, and the rest of the appropriation, which I think was approximately $2.4 million, was for the open space. As Ms. Tong has very clearly stated, the AHT looks at proposals that come to them and only come to them. Vine Street has not come to them at this point. So they will look at buy-downs and a whole variety of affordable housing needs that the Lexington Housing is going to put, I don't know, like 16 units on one parcel, and LexHab needs money for a variety to increase their parcels. So the AHT will only look at proposals that come to them. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Bothwell Allen with a question.
Sarah Bothwell Allen, Precinct 6. I just have a question about our planning for ongoing support, restoration, and preservation activities in future years in light of declining state allocations for CPA projects. I'd just like to know before we decide to invest in more that we have a plan for how we're going to maintain the ones that are already here.
Ms. Fenolosa.
Madam Moderator, when you say how we're going to maintain the projects that are already here, the projects that are already here, the money for those projects has already been appropriated, set aside, encumbered, whatever the... So any change in future funding from the state or from the taxpayers wouldn't affect the projects that we have on our plate right now. Is that...
Sorry, I think I need to clarify
Ms.
a little
Bothwell
bit.
Allen, yes.
Thank you, through you, Madam Moderator. So there's the construction costs or the acquisition of land costs that we get to create affordable housing now. And then there's the ongoing maintenance and repair and restoration and preservation costs of those that we have on Article 10D. And I'm just wondering if there is planning to ensure that we have funding for the upkeep of properties we've already committed to keeping up.
Ms. Fenolosa.
Excuse me. I'm sorry. The properties that we talked about, the rehab, the preservation, those are all LexHab projects, and LexHab is no longer an entity of the town. The town, no longer controls how LexHab plans for his maintenance, for its maintenance projects. It's entirely up to them, and we can't really tell them how to run their business. What we can do is accept their requests when they come in and compare it with the amount of available funds that we have and the other demands on the property. But at that point, LexHab is just like any other applicant for CPA funding. We have to balance all of these other considerations before we can start writing checks.
Ms. Bothwell Allen, any follow-up?
That's helpful to consider. Thank you for that answer. Thank you for your time and mull that over.
Thank you. So folks, we're going to move to take a vote on item 10C, the Affordable Housing Trust funding. So we're going to prepare to vote on just that. All of these votes, by the way, under Article 10 are simple majority. All those in favor of item 10C, press yes. All opposed, press no. Please press the blue cast your vote button after making one of those selections, and make sure you get the proper feedback next to the box where your name appears. And if not, go through those steps again. Yes, no, or abstain, and press the blue cast your vote button. Folks who are remote, is there anyone who needs to vote by voice? If you do, please unmute yourself and get our attention. And folks in the hall, please stand in place if you need to vote by voice. Okay, we can close that vote. In this matter, 170 having voted in the affirmative, 4 in the negative, and 2 abstaining, the motion carries. So we are now going to take up item 10D, the LexHab Affordable Housing Support, Restoration, and Preservation item. And we're now going to view a video from Sarah Morrison, the LexHab Executive Director.
Sarah Morrison, Executive Director of LexHab. I'm going to outline LexHab's request to the 2026 Town Meeting as part of community preservation to support affordable housing in the amount of $395,355. LexHab is an affordable housing organization in Lexington with 87 units scattered throughout the town that serve over 240 tenants. LexHab owns and manages a mix of single-family and multifamily buildings, ranging from one-bedroom apartments to four-bedroom homes. It was founded in 1983 to address a growing concern about affordability. That concern has deepened over the years as housing has grown increasingly more expensive. LexHab separated from the town in September of 2024 in order to increase efficiency and flexibility of affordable housing acquisition and production. 501c3 independent nonprofit status was approved in 2025. LexHab has a full-time housing director, part-time executive director, part-time finance, part-time admin, as well as a contractor who oversees maintenance and repairs. There are 8 board members with diverse array of experience, including affordable housing development, finance, real estate, construction, and law. The total request is $395,355. This is comprised of preservation, rehabilitation, and restoration, and support to community housing, as well as a contingency of 25% to accommodate cost increases because the request is for fiscal year 2027. As most people know, we have a housing crisis locally, statewide, and nationwide. The housing shortage is particularly acute for low and moderate income families and individuals. In Lexington, the median home price is over $1.7 million, and the average rent for a market rate 3-bedroom is over $4,000. The housing that's available in Lexington is primarily ownership. There are very few rental options, and both ownership and rental options are extraordinarily expensive. Within this backdrop of housing unaffordability, Lexington's smaller homes are being torn down at a rapid pace and replaced by much larger, much more expensive homes. Housing diversity and affordability is interwoven with health and education issues, along with impacts on race, income, class, and culture. Housing is much more than shelter. Where you live impacts how healthy you are. Where you live impacts the quality of education that you receive. Where you live impacts the job opportunities that you have, and in turn, your economic stability. Lexington and surrounding Boston suburbs have a long history of housing segregation. And because of that housing segregation, we also have a long history of education segregation. METCO, the Voluntary Education Desegregation Program, founded in 1966, is still working diligently today to desegregate our education system in 2026. As a community, we have a lot of work to do, and making housing affordable is a critical component. While the housing crisis is not unique to Lexington, there is an important role that Lexington can play in solving this big, complex problem. We need to create more affordable housing. We need to preserve existing affordable housing. We need to retrofit housing for climate resiliency. LexHab works on all of these fronts. With the support of the Affordable Housing Trust, the Community Preservation Committee, LexHab purchases small homes in good condition that would otherwise be torn down and replaced with mansions. We then transform them into permanently affordable, income-restricted homes. Thanks to the state's new rules for accessory dwelling units, LexHab is now able to add more small homes to our properties, making single families into duplexes with interior ADUs or adding backyard dwellings. LexHab has worked hard to decarbonize our units over the years with support from the Community Preservation Committee and the state program Mass Saves, as well as strong support from our local environmental groups. Another tool to address the housing crisis is maintaining housing stability for extremely low-income households to prevent homelessness or displacement. LexHab's request for community housing support helps extremely low-income households that are already in LexHab's affordable housing units. Our request for preservation, rehabilitation, and restoration includes window replacements, basement waterproofing, door replacements, chimney and roof work, and addressing erosion. LexHab's requests for preservation projects all protect our property from injury, harm, or destruction. These include replacing exterior trim rot to prevent water infiltration, addressing erosion with driveway paving, some roof replacement, rear egress preservation, and other similar projects. The final portion of our request is in support of community housing. These are funds to make housing more affordable. LexHab's structure is quite unique in that tenants pay roughly 1/3 of their income towards rent. LexHab's rents are deeply affordable. This level of affordability that LexHab can offer, because it subsidizes the rents, contrasts sharply with much needed units coming online through the MBTA zoning or other inclusionary units. For example, at Avalon. These rents are calculated at 30% of area median income and are a set amount. For example, a 1-bedroom unit that would rent at Avalon would be for roughly $2,000, while a typical LexHab 1-bedroom is closer to $1,000. LexHab's units are deeply affordable because LexHab subsidizes the cost of the units. LexHab subsidizes the cost but does not currently receive permanent, local, state, or federal funds to subsidize rents in any but one of its units. Community preservation funds for community housing are one way to provide part of this important subsidy. As you know, LexHab has come before CPC and Town Meeting for several years to make this important request. And to be clear, all of the support that LexHab receives from CPC, both for preservation and restoration, as well as community housing, is vital to keep LexHab's units deeply affordable. These funds subsidize LexHab's lowest income tenants who make below 30% area median income. They're extremely low income households. Over the years, LexHab has established minimum rents to bring our rents closer to an amount that adequately covers the expenses to maintain the units. The first minimum rent established was $200, which was no longer financially sustainable. Over the years, that minimum rent has increased. LexHab is requesting these funds to cover the difference between the first established minimum rent of $200 and the current minimum rent. For example, a senior living in a 1-bedroom apartment pays $200. The current minimum rent for LexHab is $1,091. So LexHab incurs a shortfall annually of over $10,000. This does not include the $300 condo fee that LexHab pays each month. In another example, a single mother with 2 children in a single-family 3-bedroom home pays monthly rent of $607 based on their income. The current minimum rent for the unit is a little over $1,300. LexHab incurs a rental shortage of over $9,000 annually. In another 2-bedroom example, a single mother and child pay $300 for rent based on their income. The minimum rent is just over $1,200. LexHab's annual loss is over $11,000, and this does not include the condo fee, which is $328 each month. All of these households that we're requesting support for are very low income. 17 of these households are below 30% of area median income. 7 households are below 50% area median income. This annual funding request is an important way for LexHab to be able to keep our rents deeply affordable and provide extremely low-income households access to the high-quality education, clean environment, economic mobility and stability, and strong community services that quite literally transforms people's lives for generations. This should be a point of pride for town meeting members and Lexingtonians, and I hope it is. Thank you so much for considering LexHab's request. Thank you all for your service as town meeting members.
Thank you. For the Select Board, Mr. Sandin.
Madam Moderator, the total cost of this project is $795,355, of which this funding request for $395,355 of CPA funds will support preserving and rehabilitating 23 LexHab housing units, specifically roof replacement, new doors, and exterior painting. In addition to supporting LexHab's long-term commitment to maintain housing for its lowest income tenants. LexHab will provide $360,000 of the project funding, and $40,000 of the remaining funding will come from 2 grants awarded by the Dana Home Foundation and Mass Save. The Select Board unanimously supports this article.
Thank you. And for the Capital Expenditures Committee, Mr. Lamb.
CEC unanimously recommends approval of this sub-article.
Thank you. And for the Appropriation Committee, Ms. Verma. Oh, that's okay. I just want to make sure you didn't have any other comments. So the Appropriation Committee is unanimously in support of this article.
Yes,
Thank you.
thank you.
For the Commission on Disability, Ms. Buckley.
Madam Moderator, the Commission on Disability unanimously supports this article, and we are proud that Lexington supports the affordability of housing.
Thank you. We are now going to move, seeing nobody in line, we're going to move to a vote on 10D. All those in favor of the motion under 10D, press yes. All opposed, press no. Please press the blue cast your vote button and make sure you get the proper feedback. Is there anyone who needs any assistance? Voice vote? Anyone at home need to do a voice vote? Okay, we're going to close the vote. In this matter, 171 having voted in the affirmative, 0 in the negative, and 2 abstaining. The motion carries, and it is unanimous. We'll now take up item 10E, Park Improvements, Athletic Fields, Harrington, Phase 2. We will view the Recreation Committee's video.
Hello, my name is Renan Bassick, and I am the Recreation Committee member presenting Article 10E, Appropriations for Community Preservation Funds in support of park improvements for athletic fields in Harrington Phase 2. The Recreation Committee is requesting $2,630,000 in fiscal year 2027 from the Community Preservation Fund to complete Phase 2 of the athletic field project at 146 Maple Street, known as the Maple Street Complex. Here is a current aerial view of 146 Maple Street. For a brief history on this project, the fall 2024 Special Town Meeting appropriated $100,000 for schematic design services for future construction of the Harrington Fields, which is anticipated to be a fiscal year 2026 capital request. The 2025 Annual Town Meeting appropriated $1,197,904 for Phase 1 of the Athletic Fields project at 146 Maple Street, which included the cost for design and engineering, project management, and construction administration, and a small portion of construction and contingency funding. This funding request is to complete Phase 2 of the project, which is the construction of the new athletic fields. The full design will include 2 full-size multi-purpose rectangle fields, an overlay for cricket, athletic lighting, and a shade structure. The athletic playing surfaces will be natural grass. In the 2021 to 2022 Comprehensive Study of Athletic and Outdoor Recreational Facilities, an annual deficiency of 5,100 hours between available field hours as compared to the field hours needed was identified. The recent addition of athletic lighting at Lincoln Park has reduced that by 1,000 hours. The configuration of the athletic fields would allow for independent and concurrent field use. It is estimated that approximately 1,200 hours of field use would be gained each year because of this project, further reducing the deficit to 2,900 hours. Anticipated timeline for this project is to mobilize summer 2026 and be substantially complete in late summer 2027. Here is a rendering of the current proposal for the new fields. Thank you for your support and consideration.
Did we get to see the rendering? Yes. Okay, good, good. For the Select Board, Mr. Sandin.
Madam Moderator, the Select Board unanimously supports approval of this article.
Thank you. For the Capital Expenditures Committee, Mr. Lamb.
Madam Moderator, the Capital Expenditures Committee unanimously recommends approval of this article.
Ms. Verma has indicated that the Appropriation Committee is unanimous. For the School Committee, Ms. Jay.
Madam Moderator, the School Committee is in unanimous support of Article 10E.
Thank you. And Ms. Buckley for the Committee on Disability.
Madam Moderator, the Commission on Disability unanimously supports this article.
Thank you. Ms. McKenna with a question.
Dawn McKenna, Precinct 6, Madam Moderator. So I was just a little bit confused. It seems like we were asked for a lot of money to do the design, and now the cost is about the same amount. I wonder if somebody could explain a little bit better how much of the money that's been appropriated already plus what we're doing now is design, and how much of it is the actual construction cost.
Ms. Fenolosa.
Madam Moderator, would you please, I can't even think, recognize Peter, Coleman. It's been a long night.
That's okay. Mr. Coleman. Yeah, no problems.
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
All of a sudden,
Madam Moderator.
Thank you, Mr. Coleman.
Would you please recognize Meg Basinski from Activitas, who's attending remotely tonight?
Yes, can you give me that last name again?
Meg Basinski.
Basinski, yes.
Thank you.
Ms. Basinski is participating remotely.
Madam Moderator, can you hear me okay?
Yes, loud and clear.
Great, thank you. Yes, so of the funds that were previously approved and hopefully approved tonight, the design cost or the soft cost is about $280,000, and then the remaining funds are for construction. So overseeing the actual construction as well as construction administration oversight as part of that project.
Ms. McKenna.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. That makes more sense than what I had heard. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Steigerwald with a question.
Madam Moderator, Jessie Steigerwald, Precinct 8. Through you, I believe there was a mention about putting a fence around the field, and I know you mentioned coyotes, and I'm wondering, can you just share, do we have fences around all of our fields?
Who would like to field that? You guys are awake. Good. Hello, Mr. Cronin.
Madam Moderator, I think there's some confusion. It's not related to this field. It's related to the playground over at Bridge.
Great.
Ms. Steigerwald, any follow-up?
Thank you.
That was easy. Ms. Crocker with a question.
Judy Crocker, Precinct 5. My question is,
I would say about 40% of the Big Backyard program for Harrington accesses a wood path and some of the surrounding brush along the back aspect of that property. So I just want to make sure there was still access because this construction process is going to be going on for about a year during the school year.
Mr. Coleman.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. Could you please recognize Meg Basinski?
Yes, Ms. Basinski.
Sure, Madam Moderator, there will be some limited access during actual construction. We are working with the nearby school to understand kind of what their needs are during, during our construction season. But following completion, there will be access back down to the trails behind the existing administration building like there is now.
Ms. Crocker.
Thank you. Lastly, just a comment. This property is very wet. There is actually where the current former kindergarten rooms were, on a real good rain day, like one of those 1-inch storms that we get all too often these days, you could actually hear the water going through the pipes underneath 2 of the classrooms. So just being understanding that there's going to be mitigation with those wetlands that surround the school in the back, that we don't create a new pond or something like that. Part of this was also discovered when we built the new Harrington, because part of that front parking lot used to be a pond where some of the teachers remembered ice skating. So mitigation is a good thing. That's why there's so many little sinkholes in that parking lot. So thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Black in the yes line.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. Lauren Black, Precinct 8. I may not need to rise to be in support of this. Hopefully this is something that I think everybody is in support of, but having 3 children who are involved in a variety of sports, including LUSC and Lexington lacrosse, which I would assume would use these fields quite readily, I am rising in support. I think that this is something that the town desperately needs, is some more field time. Anybody who's driven by Lincoln Fields, even tonight, if you happen to be out there with LUSC using most of the fields for most of the time, it's an important thing, I think, for our sports and our kids to be able to get out there and use the field. So I hope that everyone will join me in voting yes in favor of this article. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Pato with point of order.
Madam Moderator, John Rossi has his hand raised in Zoom.
Okay. Mr. Rossi, can you unmute yourself?
Mr. Rossi, you are unmuted.
I apologize. That mute was inadvertent. I'm not quite sure how it got on there, but I'm glad I got it off. I apologize to the town meeting.
Did you want to address us?
No, it was inadvertent. I did not mean to interrupt the town
Oh, okay,
meeting.
okay. All right, very good. But it's nice to hear your voice, Mr. Rossi. All right, we missed you.
You're very kind.
Okay, we're going to move to a vote on item 10E. So staff will prepare that. All those in favor of the motion under 10E, please press yes. All opposed, press no. Please press the blue cast your vote button and make sure you get the proper feedback. Anyone having technical difficulty in the hall? Is there anyone who's remote who needs to vote by voice? Okay, we'll close the vote. In this matter, 160 having voted in the affirmative, 4 in the negative, and 4 abstaining, the motion carries. We'll now take up item 10F, playground infrastructure upgrades, and we have a video from Mr. Cronin.
Good evening, town meeting members. My name is Mike Cronin. I'm the Director of Public Facilities, and tonight I'm here to discuss Article 10F, which are the playground infrastructure upgrades. The current condition at both Bridge and elementary schools is that they are the only two elementary schools that do not have a fenced-in area for their playground. Both principals have expressed security-related concerns for both playgrounds. The Fisk principal has noticed that strangers have walked off the street and have approached the students on the playground. And the Bridge principal has noticed the same activity and has also had a coyote on the property. What is the request? Both principals would like to have a fence installed at each location that would completely enclose the playground spaces. Each location would include a gate so that the staff could supervise students while limiting access from the outside folks to keep the students on the playground. The playground would still be available for public use during non-hours. We would not lock the gates. The Bridge Elementary School playground is shown below, and the proposed fence is in the orange outline of the existing playground. This is a picture of the Fisk Elementary playground, where in the orange outline, this would be the proposed location for the fence. The appropriation would be to request the sum of $100,000 for the installation of fencing and the appropriate gates and hardware. Thank you very much.
Thank you. For the Select Board, Mr. Sandin.
Madam Moderator, the Select Board unanimously supports approval of this article.
Mr. Lamb for the Capital Expenditures Committee.
Madam Moderator, the Capital Expenditures Committee unanimously recommends approval of this article.
Thank you. Ms. Verma has indicated that the Appropriation Committee is unanimously in favor. For the School Committee, Ms. Jay.
Madam Moderator, the school committee is in unanimous support of Article 10F.
And for the Commission on Disability, Ms. Buckley.
Madam Moderator, the Commission on Disability is unanimously in favor of Article 10F.
Thank you. Mr. Avalone with a question.
Bob Avalone, Precinct 8. I just want to get clear about the locks on the door, on the fence. During the hours the school's open, would they be locked to prevent strangers from attending, or is it only open in the off hours? I understand that correctly?
Mr. Cronin.
Madam Moderator, we will not have locks on any of the playgrounds.
You said, Madam Moderator, through you, he said that one of the reasons to get strangers from coming in during the school hours, so no locks, they could just come in. You could keep coyotes out, but you couldn't keep strange humans out.
Or a clever raccoon. But go ahead, Mr. Cronin.
Madam Moderator.
I've got him in my yard, trust me.
If you picture the Fisk Elementary School, for instance, there's a main street that runs right in front of it, and we often have folks walking their dogs right straight through the playground. It's really to discourage that kind of behavior. Anybody that wants to hop the 4-foot fence is going to hop the 4-foot fence, but I think we're really trying to discourage folks from just walking up on the kids in the playground.
Mr. Avalone.
Okay, thanks for that answer.
Ms. Steigerwald with a question. Mr. Wise in the no line.
So Ryan Wise, Precinct 6. I'll note that I'm a parent of 3 kids at Fisk currently. And then I'm a little conflicted by this because the motion actually just says $100,000 for playground improvements, and that's pretty general. I'd be happy to have $50,000 of playground improvements at Fisk. But that's not what this describes, and what this describes is not, I think, what we want. First, I want to point out that the presentation of this is just patently false. Estabrook does not have an enclosed playground. You can walk directly from the parking lot across the playground over an old stone wall and into the neighbor's yard. Hastings does not have an enclosed playground. You can walk directly from the street across the parking lot and into the playground. It does have a fence to the wooded embankment that falls down towards I-95. Same thing for Harrington. There is no enclosed playground. So we are not, this is presented as bringing Fisk and Bridge up to spec with the other schools, and that is simply not the case. So I don't understand how this got past all of our committees with that just inaccurate description. Procedurally, There's been no outreach to the Fisk community for sure. I don't know about the Bridge community. I've polled a number of local parents. Generally, the 5 who replied to my email were 4 against, 1 in favor. Kids don't want to be enclosed. Most of the parents don't want the kids to be enclosed. Worst, I talked to Mr. Baker, Principal Baker, earlier today, and I asked him about this. What he said was that what he really wanted and been asking for years was something to prevent balls from getting out of the playground into the driveway that immediately abuts the playground for maybe 20 yards, maybe 30, but a small minority of the boundary of the playground. That was his safety request. And when I said, well, do you want a full enclosure? Because that's what's described. He said, no, I don't think that's a good idea. So I don't know who's asking for this through what process, but there's just not been due diligence here. Our kids don't want to be enclosed. Parents don't want them to be enclosed. They need to run. They love to run. I don't understand where this is coming from, so I hope everyone will just vote it down and this can come back in 6 months with a better plan. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Scheifel with a question.
Tom Scheifel, Precinct 9. It wasn't clear for me from the diagram for Bridge School if the fenced-in area encroaches on the paved path that passes through the school at all.
Mr. Cronin.
So we're not intending to stop the pathway. We're not intending to fence that particular area in.
Okay.
Mr. Scheifel.
Yeah, I'm also a bit conflicted by this idea. My kids went to Bridge School, never really heard any issues there. I pass through there all the time, coming up to town center, and as Mr. Wise just said, yeah, it keeps people from coming in, but it also keeps the children from wandering around on the edges, and I think that kind of freedom and exploration is important. Thanks.
Deepika Sawhney with a question.
Yes, thank you, Madam Moderator. So to Mr. Cronin, the question is that the hard top right next to the Fisk playground is actually used for sort of an assembly in the mornings when kids just come out, and I think even for in good days when kids have to be picked up from the outside. So if you enclose the whole place with a chain link fence, it's just going to create sort of a choke point. I'm not quite sure how that works.
Mr. Cronin.
Madam Moderator, so we had communication with the 2 principals. They're the generators of the request. All of the fine details have not been worked out yet. We will work with both of the administrations at both buildings to figure out right where the fence ought to be. These are representations of what we thought they wanted. It may not be exactly what they want, and so when we have the fence installer on board, we'll then go to the 2 schools and figure out exactly where they are. If they choose not to fence in the asphalted area, then we won't do that.
Ms. Sawhney.
Okay, so just as I've lived around Fisk area all the time, and a couple of simplest solutions might just be put up signs saying to just dissuade politely people who have dogs to not come by that area. Residents like I who lived there for a while know not to go near the school kids or the school areas when school is in session with our dogs. So sometimes simple solutions should be tried out. The other thing, if you really want to keep the kids safe, is Adams Street is becoming really very busy. And if you want to put a fence over there, because baseball games happen during Saturday, Sundays, and people zoom down Adams Street Hill, you may want to put up a fence there, put some traffic calming solutions to protect that. Anybody who talks to the crossing guard at that point, where kids from Diamond and kids from Fisk are crossing over, will give you an earful of how dangerous it can be with people on vehicles just zooming by. So I'm going to vote a no because I feel the money could be spent better even on the Fisk playground in other places to keep the kids safe. Thank you.
Thank you. Mark Anderson in the no line.
Mark Anderson, Precinct 9.
For me, my 3 children went to Fisk, and I now live near Hastings. It's always been a source of pride that Lexington's had many open resources. And I grew up in California. Whenever I go back to visit California, one of the things that's noteworthy is that all of the playgrounds at all of the schools are fenced and locked and closed. And I, as well as other family members visiting with kids, have had to climb those fences to let my children play at a playground. And there's this strong school-town division that we don't really have here. And I understand that the proponents are not suggesting that the fence would be locked today, but it could be locked tomorrow once it's built. It's $100,000 just for a couple schools, and as was pointed out by Mr. Wise, it'll be more when other schools are done. But I would also like to point out, if any of you were children, what it was like when you were a child and there was a fence. A fence becomes an obstacle. A ball goes over the fence. You want to get from point A to point B, and there's a fence in the way. Well, what happens? You climb the fence. We climb fences all the time. There will be many more injuries resulting from this fence than will be prevented by the coyotes that I haven't seen in daytime playing with the children, or the strangers. And yes, I know that we have some fear of strangers. There's a lot of news about it, but many of our children walk to school. There are strangers who live in the community, and we tolerate that already. I don't think the fence is the right solution. I think it's a source of injury. I think that when you think about it, it'll be initially with one gate, and then they'll be like, well, we need 2 or 3 because Johnny got injured climbing over the fence to get the ball. So it just doesn't seem like a logical solution. Totally, I would feel quite differently if you wanted to put a fence along a busy street or something like that. But an enclosed playground means that every family who wants to visit on the weekend is going to have to circumvent the playground until they find that entrance and go in, and I don't think it's a justified purpose. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Bothwell-Allen with a question.
Thank you. Sarah Bothwell-Allen, Precinct 6. I just wanted to confirm what Mr. Wise said. There's not a fence at Estabrook. I definitely understand a need to keep balls from ending up in roadways and to keep roadways and play areas separate. So maybe a line of fence along Adams Street makes sense. But I think it's really important to consider that the boundaries that we erect for constraining children, constraining adults, and this idea of constraining wildlife are not in our best interest. And honestly, I'd like a little bit more information about this human-coyote interaction. We have a variety of wildlife regularly passing through the grounds at Estabrook. The tracks are there in the snow every morning, and we have not had any problem. We have bears occasionally there, and we have not had a need for restrictions. So if someone could explain a bit more about this coyote problem.
Mr. Cronin.
Madam Moderator, I think coyote problem is maybe overstating. I think what we've experienced is feedback from the principal saying that we've had a daytime sighting to the left-hand side of the playground area, and they were nervous. They brought the kids in. That's about all I know.
Okay.
Ms. Bothwell-Allen.
Thank you. I think that might be a bit of an overreaction to build a fence over one daytime sighting of a coyote, especially depending on the time of year. My other question was with relation to Dr. Hackett's April 2nd email regarding the potential discussion of closing potentially Bridge and or Bowman, one of them, in the next year or two, depending on continued declining enrollment. Sorry, Bridger. Would it make sense to build a 25-year fence in the next year if that school might come offline?
Mr. Cronin.
Madam Moderator, I think safety of the kids are important today, and I'm not quite sure that I would want to weigh those 2 options, whether they may close a school a year or 2 or 3 down the road versus the safety of the kids today. For me, that's an easy one. I'd put the fence up.
Ms. Bothwell-Allen.
Thanks. I feel really conflicted about the need for having maybe some partial fences, as Mr. Wise described, to restrict balls traveling out into roadways or along a busy street. But again, that is not what was in the presentation. And I'm not inclined to support what I saw in the presentation, but would really be inclined to support something that really was targeted to that kind of safety. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Sykes with a question.
Nicholas Sykes, Precinct 8. I'm not sure who exactly to direct this question to, Madam Moderator. If we vote no on this proposal right now, what would be the protocol to make another attempt with perhaps a better definition of what the principals are actually looking for?
Ms. Fenellosa, I think that goes to your committee's process.
I think if it were voted down today, there's nothing that could stop Mr. Cronin or any other, or the schools from applying for a new fence or another kind of barrier next fall. But it would take an additional or a new application with new figures and new cost estimates and new justifications. Everything that goes into our application, essentially, they'd have to start over.
Ms. Sykes.
Madam Moderator, would it be possible to postpone this question so that Mr. Cronin could get more information from the principals?
This is also a question for both Mr. Cronin and Ms. Fenellosa in terms of your committee's process, if this is a material change from what was presented to your committee.
Well, what was presented to our committee was a capital improvement plan that I summarized in the presentation. What you saw from Mr. Cronin, and if there was information there that was different, we had nothing to do with that. But I would say that, well, I don't know. We've never had a project postponed for more information, so I would kind of throw that back at you. Is that a legitimate parliamentary procedure that we could postpone this until whenever?
Mr. Cronin, did you want to say something? And then I'm going to ask Town Council a question.
Madam Moderator, so I think the outline of the fence that's on the PowerPoint was my interpretation of what I thought the principals were looking for. It is not the exactness. I'm not asking for the exact outline of those fence parameters to be. That's not the answer. We will go to the principal, and if they say, as the gentleman in the back said, if they just want the fence in the very back to prevent balls from going into the field, that's what we'll install. We have no interest in installing fences where people don't want them. So the proposal is to install fencing at Bridge and Fisk. I'm not quite sure what that's going to wind up looking like. It may just be the fence that's against the Fisk and Adams to prevent kids from going onto the street. That's what it could be. I apologize. There were errors in the presentation. That's on me. I didn't do the fact checking. Should have done that. I own that. I apologize. We definitely have no fencing at certain schools. I recognize it when he said it.
Yeah.
Ms. Sykes.
Right. Thank you.
Thank you. Alex Tavalis with a question.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. Alex Tavalis, Precinct 5. A fear of repeating what other people have said, parent of a child who went to Fisk. And I also had there is a fence along Adams Street, by the way, already, presently. So I don't understand how this is going to make the children safer playing in the playground. So through you, Madam Moderator, maybe Mr. Cronin could explain that. I'm just confused.
Mr. Cronin.
Madam Moderator, so not being a principal of an elementary school, I don't see the day-to-day activities that happen there. I hear some of the feedback from the principals. They came to us and said, we've got a need. We want you to install some fencing at the building. We wrote an article to support their need. I can tell you that 400 kids that are there, somebody's not behaving and following instructions according to what they normally do every day. I had 4 kids. They all weren't angels. My little Cameron, he gave me a run for my money, let me tell you. So, I think fencing needs to be installed. I'm not sure that format is exactly what we need to install, but something is needed.
Right.
Principals don't ask for no reason.
Mrs. Fallis.
Yes, thank you. I agree. I do respect what the principals would be asking for, so there must be some legitimate reason. I do know that, as mentioned earlier, that the the way the children assemble, at least at Fisk, in that sort of basketball court. And so I'm just imagining a fence around that seems problematic. So I guess I'm just not entirely comfortable understanding without a better sort of design, I guess, of what this is. So I'd probably inclined to vote no. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. McKenna in the no line.
Madam Moderator, Don McKenna, Precinct 6. The simplest thing to do here is if you aren't comfortable with the fence or the presentation, vote no. I don't personally believe we should be putting fences up around the children's playgrounds absent some compelling reason. And yeah, you know, I understand Mr. Cronin has had a lot of things on his mind this year, including a big project, but there's no urgency to this. It's not like something's going to happen if you vote no, and if you want to vote yes, you can do that, but I urge you all to vote no. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Radulescu-Banu in the yes line.
Madam Moderator, I'd like to move to table this part of the article.
Okay. The question comes...
Can I offer reasoning, or I'm not allowed?
No. So table is not debatable. Postponed to a date or time certain is, but you have moved to lay this on the table. Okay. Town meeting members, let's have a vote slide for this, if we could. This is to lay it on the table. Yeah. Okay. All those in favor of laying item 10F on the table, we'll have to take it back up at some point, even if it's to indefinitely postpone or to vote it down or to vote it up. But for now, we're laying it on the table. So a yes vote will lay it on the table. A no vote will keep this alive for now. And you can also press abstain. And please press the blue cast your vote button. So again, a yes vote will table this for later consideration. A no vote will just open this up for us to continue debate or move to a vote. So please cast
Madam
your
Moderator?
vote, yes or no. Yes, Ms. Penalosa.
If I may ask, can we present additional or different information when the tabled motion comes back?
Sure, absolutely. Does anyone need help voting in the hall? Anyone remote need to vote by voice? Okay, we'll close the vote. In this matter, 74 having voted in the affirmative, 91 in the negative, and 9 abstaining, the motion fails. All right, let's see who is in line to speak. Ms. Swain.
Hi, Laura Swain, Precinct 2. This is a question through you, Madam Moderator, to Mr. Cronin or maybe someone on the school committee. I know that the Bowman Elementary School has a fence around the playground. I am wondering if the children during school hours are allowed to play, for example, soccer outside the fence.
I see some yes nods from the school committee. Mr. Cronin?
Yes, that's correct.
Yes, that is correct, Ms. Swain.
Okay, and is this, Madam Moderator, through you to the school committee, since they seem to be in the know, is this the same type of fence that is at Bowman School that would be put up at the other schools?
Mr. Cronin?
Yes.
Ms. Swain?
Okay, Madam Moderator, through you, one last question. I'm to understand that this is a so-called 25-year fence, but I just learned today that the fence at the Bowman School is already coming apart and needs repair, and while it's coming apart, I feel like there probably is some pretty sharp heads of the fence that are exposed. I'm wondering if the school committee is aware of this.
Ms. J.
I think I also saw those pictures. I would defer to Mr. Cronin as to how those kinds of situations and repairs occur.
Thank you. Mr. Cronin.
Madam Moderator, so we did have quite a bit of a winter this year, and we had a snowplow get a little too close to the fence and did some tearing of some of the fabric. So it is on our work order list. We have put that into the contractor, and as soon as they can get to it, they will get to it.
Ms. Swain.
Madam Moderator, through you, I guess I'm done. I'm a little frustrated the snowplow couldn't avoid the fence, but...
Me too.
It is what it is. Thank you very much.
Mr. Cohen, what's your point of order?
Yes, thank you, Madam Moderator. I just wanted to go on record. My vote was not recorded. I voted against tabling that previous motion.
Okay, looks like the clerk got it. Ms. Steigerwald with a question.
Thank you.
Madam Moderator, Jessie Steigerwald, Precinct 8. Can I clarify again, please? Can Mr. Cronin tell us which elementary schools have fences?
Tread carefully, Mr. Cronin.
I may not be the right person for this answer. I think there's better information in the back row there. So I do know that we have a fence against Hastings on the wood side. I'm trying to replay them in my head. I know the Bowman has 3 sides. Bridge has partial fencing. Harrington has the big gate. They don't have a fence. Estabrook is open.
No, Estabrook has a fence along the wood ledge behind the school. Sorry, I live right beside it. There's...
See, I told you I have homework to do.
There's a chain link fence at the edge of the woods behind the building.
I can't even visualize that one. But as good as I get right there.
No offense, haha. Madam Moderator, through you, I have a couple questions. One is, I appreciate, Mr. Cronin, you're sort of acknowledging that perhaps there was a request made and you put a budget line item in to give some room to figure out what people want if we overall in town meeting support some form of fencing. I appreciate Ms. Bothwell-Allen's questions about wildlife, and it seems small, but I do feel like a full 360-degree enclosure does really interfere 24/7 with wildlife, and that does not seem like a helpful thing to do. Do you have a sort of policy around how much fencing you try to do? So will you try to do the minimal fencing that meets the goals of the principals, or what's your approach to the balance of the keeping it open for wildlife?
Mr. Cronin.
Madam Moderator. So that is our approach. We ask the principal what they're looking for, and they have some kind of a committee that they talk to, and they say, we want to put a fence here, or here, and here, or enclose the whole thing. So we really are taking their feedback. This is no policy on our end. I don't care if you have a fence or no fence. If the principal wants to put a fence up, I'm happy to put it up. It really is outside of our operational component. It's really student management, and I would look at wildlife pathways as a secondary issue.
Madam Moderator,
Ms. Steigerwald.
Through you, and for Ms. Fenolosa, if we allocate this money and way less money is needed, where does that money go? What happens with that?
Ms. Fenolosa.
Madam Moderator, it goes back into the bucket from whence it came. So if it comes out of recreation, it would go back into the unbudgeted reserves.
Let's see, this is F, so it's coming from the unbudgeted reserve according to the motion. So we'll go back there.
Thank you. And Madam Moderator, through you, I think for our finance committees, everyone was in support of this, I think, pretty much.
Yes.
I think we're hearing this is taking a long time for a small item, but what is the level of detail that the finance committees look at when they get this? Like, we're sort of learning about fences tonight, and that the specific needs have not yet been identified. Is that typical for all of the line items, or what role does our financial committee leadership here play?
Mr. Parker.
Madam Moderator, we have a member of the Appropriation Committee who actually is a liaison to the CPC. So she attends meetings, hears the presentations, and I mean, obviously, in this case, we heard the presentation from Mike Cronin expressing the desire to have the fencing, and you know, we believe him. We take him at his word. So we didn't actually go out and interview the principals or you know, survey the school grounds.
Thank you.
Madam Moderator, so just a brief
Excuse me, I'm going to ask Mr. Lamb if he wants to say anything, and then I'm going to make a suggestion to town meeting.
What Mr. Parker said.
Okay. Hey, folks, so you didn't want to lay this on the table, which means you want to vote tonight. Do you have the information you need to take a vote? It's got to be one or the other. Yeah, I think you guys are ready to vote. So perhaps, yes. I'm just trying to figure out what else is going to happen here tonight that will get you all closer to a vote. Ms. McKenna. I hear you, but I'm just making a gentle suggestion because you have to do one or the other. You have to either lay it on the table or you have to take a vote. Mr. Botla in the no line. Help me help you.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. I think I'm the most recent child in the room, and I remember very, very vividly when a fence was installed when my family lived in Winchester around Lincoln Elementary School. In 1 week, 4 of my friends broke their limbs climbing over the fence. I mean, like, you know, this isn't, like, if there was a really solid argument for, like, the fence protects the kids from moving traffic, which was the argument at Lincoln, but that also combined with the going over the fence, so it wasn't great. You know, I would buy into this. I think a no vote is the simple answer. This can come back with more specificity, with more clear guidance on exactly where the fences will be. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Hamilton in the yes line.
Phil Hamilton, Precinct 7. Madam Moderator, I call the question.
All right. So, folks, we're going to let staff prepare that slide. This will be a vote on whether you're ready to close debate. And this will require a 2/3 vote. All those, Ms. Roy, what's your point of order? Okay. All those in favor of closing debate, press yes. All those who want to continue debate and questions, press no. And please press the blue cast your vote button. So again, a yes vote will simply close debate. No vote will keep debate going. Make sure you get the proper feedback. Does anyone need to vote by voice? Yes. Just stand and say your name and the precinct number so that staff can record your vote. Ms. Sykes, Precinct 8, votes no. Yes. Votes yes. Oh, I heard I'm against. Yes. Yeah. It's clearly the moderator's going deaf.
Nicholas Sykes, Precinct 8, I vote yes.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? And anyone at home need to vote by voice. Please unmute yourself and get our attention. Okay, we'll close the vote. In this matter, 155 having voted yes, 14 voting no, and 9 abstaining. The motion carries and by more than the necessary 2/3. Ms. Fenolosa, do you have any final comments?
I do not. Mr. Cronin?
Mr. Cronin, do you have any final comments?
We're cool.
Okay, terrific. They're cool. All right, we're going to move to a final vote on item 10F. All those in favor of the motion under 10F, press yes. All opposed, press no. Please press the blue cast your vote button and make sure you get the proper feedback. And happy to take any voice votes if you could stand in place and get yourself to a microphone. And folks at home, unmute yourself and get our attention if you need to vote by voice. Okay, we'll close the vote. In this matter, 57 having voted in the affirmative, 112 in the negative, and 11 abstaining, the motion fails. Mr. Michelson. Of 10F. Thank you. Mr. Michelson serves notice for reconsideration of 10F. Okay. All right. Could we have a motion, Ms. Hay, to next take up Article 12?
Madam Moderator, I so move.
Thank you. Is there any objection to that motion? Use the raise objection button if there is. Seeing none, the motion carries. The meeting is now open on Article 12. Appropriate for municipal capital projects and equipment. Those items not on the consent agenda will be the ones we take up. The motion is the one before you, dated March 9th, 2026, and on file with the town clerk. Ms. Hay for that motion. Ms. Hay.
Madam Moderator, I so move.
Thank you, Ms. Hay. All right. The first item is that we will take up, that's not on the consent agenda, is 12B, pedestrian plan implementation, Minuteman Bikeway to Lexington High School. So we will now view a video from Megan Roche, the Assistant Planning Director for Land Use, Housing, and Development Department.
Hi, my name is Megan Roche, and I'm the Assistant Planning Director in the Land Use, Housing, and Development Department. This evening, I am presenting Article 12B, Bicycle Pedestrian Plan Implementation, Minuteman Bikeway to Lexington High School. Article 12B requests $180,000 to support the study and design of dedicated bicycle and pedestrian access between the Minuteman Bikeway and Lexington High School. This is a high priority of the 2024 Townwide Bicycle and Pedestrian Plan, otherwise referred to as the Bike Ped Plan. The project expects to identify and design to a 25% level a pedestrian and bicycle route from the bikeway through the center to the high school and from the bikeway across Bedford Street to the high school. The Bike Ped Plan identified improvements to accomplish this goal. However, before we proceed, public input along with study and design is necessary. This proposal will consider the design and future construction of a multi-use path along Worthen Road from Mass Ave to Waltham Street. This will be presented to you this evening as a separate municipal capital project, Article 12C. The scope of work for this planning effort will consider the needs and proposed solutions presented in the Bike Ped Plan with the design of the new high school. The scope of work will consider safety issues navigating parking lots such as Depot Square, Camellia Place, and roads such as Mass Ave, Worthen Road, Muzzy, Clark, and Waltham Streets. The planning process will engage the public, students, abutters, business owners, and many boards and committees to determine the best routes to connect the bikeway to the high school. The scope will also include collecting traffic counts and speed and crash data. In addition, on-street parking within the subject area will be reviewed. A 25% design level refers to preliminary plans and roadway concepts, but not yet fully designed and engineered plans. We expect the planning and design process to take about 12 months following the selection of a consultant. Depending on the selected design, a second funding request may be necessary to develop more detailed plans and for the construction. Once the public process progresses and a design level is reached, our estimates will be refined. It is our goal to have the project completed around the same time as the high school project nears completion and for construction to be coordinated appropriately. Providing a route where individuals of all ages and abilities feel comfortable using creates a culture where people seek alternative modes of transportation, which in turn reduces congestion near schools and on our roads. Lexington's Vision Zero action plan strives to eliminate all traffic fatalities and severe injuries while increasing safe, healthy, and equitable mobility for all. Our comprehensive plan, Lexington Next, includes goals of reducing transportation emissions and enhancing the quality of life, health, and safety for all residents and visitors. The Bicycle and Pedestrian Plan recognizes Lexington's commitment to a process of evaluation, investment, and changes that will make alternative transportation modes more accessible, attractive, and inclusive. Article 12B is requesting $180,000 from the Traffic Mitigation Stabilization Fund and/or the General Fund to support bicycle and pedestrian connectivity between the Minuteman Bikeway and the Lexington High School. Thank you.
For the Select Board, Ms. Hay.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. As advancing the bicycle and pedestrian access plan and traffic safety group recommendations are a key element of the current year goals for the Select Board is unanimously in support of this.
Thank you. Mr. Lamb for the Capital Expenditures Committee.
Capital Expenditures Committee is unanimously in favor of approval of this article.
Thank you. Mr. Podeke for the Appropriation Committee.
Madam Moderator, the Appropriation Committee unanimously recommends approval of Article 12B.
Thank you. Ms. Jay for the School Committee.
Madam Moderator, the School Committee is in unanimous support of Article 12B.
Thank you. Mr. Luker with a question.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. I fully in support of this motion, and I probably could have done this from the S line too, but I have a question for Assistant Planning Director Roach. I wanted to know if a measure of success for this project would be its ability to sort of guide I guess I want to know, is it going to stop people from cycling on the sidewalks, or is that one of the goals of the project, and how is the analysis planning to try to make that happen?
Ms. Roach.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. I would measure the success of this project as inviting more students, residents, staff of the schools to select alternative modes of transportation to get to the high school. It would be successful if we continue to safely get our students to and from the bikeway to the high school. It would be successful if we were able to introduce those who don't currently feel comfortable doing so and inviting them to do so. And to answer your other question, really nothing's off the table in terms of design for this project, but we would be looking to safely separate bicyclists and vehicles, whether that be on-street bike lanes or separated pathways. Nothing's off the table, but we would want to safely separate bicyclists and vehicles.
Mr. Luker.
That sounds great. Again, I'm fully in support of this, and I agree everything should be on the table, and good luck. Thanks.
Thank you. Ms. Gao and the yes line.
Betty Gao, Precinct 8. I strongly support Articles 12B and C. These two articles help us move forward with our sustainability goals, our commitment to climate action, and our recently approved townwide bike ped plan. These articles promote our established commitment to walking and biking safety in Lexington. Biking from the Minuteman Commuter Bikeway to Lexington High School is unsafe for students who are forced to navigate through parking lots, across car traffic on busy Mass Ave and or Bedford Street, then proceed down streets that are highly trafficked by cars traveling at speeds 25 to 30 miles per hour. There are currently no protected bike lanes or safe access on any routes from the Minuteman Bikeway to the high school, so students are forced to share the road with cars and ride around parked cars. Spending $180,000 for a study and design of dedicated bike and pedestrian access from the Minuteman Bikeway to the high school is an important use of our funding. It's an investment in our future by investing in our transportation infrastructure. We enjoy our beloved and well-used Minuteman Commuter Bikeway, and now we have the opportunity to create safe connections to it for all residents and especially for our students. Promoting this type of study is an important step to reducing car traffic to the high school, reducing a reliance on cars for transportation, and reducing our carbon emission. Let's encourage our students to ride and bike to school by investing in the design and creation of safe routes. Please vote yes for these two articles. Thank you.
Thank you. James Cadenhead in the public gallery.
Good evening, town meeting members. My name is Jim Cadenhead, and I am here as a father, as a licensed bicycle educator, as a transportation advocate, and on behalf of several students who submitted letters but could not be here in person tonight. The bicycle pedestrian plan was released 2 years ago, and the highest priority on the plan addresses creating infrastructure for students to safely get to school. Every morning and every afternoon, we can see these students navigating the sidewalks through town center to get to Lexington High. Vehicular violence is one of the greatest threats to our children, and our children are the greatest responsibility of our community. Please vote in support of our future safety. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Kaufman with a question.
Steve Kaufman, Precinct 5, through you, Madam Moderator, to the proponent. I just would like to better understand the route that you think this path will take through the center of town, because A, it's super busy and it's not super safe, and B, there's all this discussion about bicyclists and pedestrians crashing into each other, and there's concern. So the goal is awesome, but the question is, how will this work, or what have you thought about this before we go ahead and plan it? What's the thought about the route?
Ms. Roach.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. The bicycle and pedestrian plan does highlight a few suggested ways to implement this solution. One might see the removal of on-street parking on Muzzy Street with a painted bike lane. It also focuses on the Depot Square area with green painted bike lanes in alternate directions on Mass Ave. Those are all options, but again, the bike ped plan it didn't vet all available options, and it wasn't fully designed, nor did it go through a public process with those who should have been who should more intently be involved in that design process. So, like I said, nothing's off the table, and that's really what the study is going to be. We'll consider Muzzy Street as that route to take students from the bikeway to the high school, but let's also look at all the other side streets as well, understand how those are being used, what might be the safest, which roads are cars maybe speeding down and might not be the best option. Again, not to keep repeating myself, but nothing's off the table. And we'll also be looking at the connection from closer to Camellia Place as well across Bedford Street, which again, is already a signalized intersection, so something to consider. But then, of course, once we look at intersections and signalizations, costs would increase as well. So we'll look at all available options. Yeah.
Mr. Kaufman.
Thank you.
Thank you. Kunal Botla in the yes line.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. Kunal Botla, Precinct 4, Chair of the Transportation Advisory Committee, and speaking on the committee's behalf. The Transportation Advisory Committee voted unanimously to recommend passage of Article 12B because it supports efforts to improve sustainable transportation options at the new high school and in the neighborhood, and the committee supports the rationale and recommendations from the Bicycle Advisory Committee.
Thank you. Don McKenna with a question.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. Don McKenna, Precinct 6. So the first question I have, I generally like the idea of doing this. However, I have concerns about the language that's been put forth, which seems to drive to a conclusion rather than an open conversation about what is appropriate for a way to get there and how that might affect the center. So I'm wondering what thought has been put into that and whether there's any room to ensure that a thorough discussion about the needs of the center would be included.
Ms. Roach.
Madam Moderator, so again, the request for funding is to study and come up with a preliminary design or a 25% design. It's nothing's off the table, so we don't. I apologize if the language delivers that way, but we're going to consider all options for safe bicycle and pedestrian routes in the center. If I didn't answer that quite right, I would ask for clarification, please.
Ms. McKenna.
Madam Moderator, so I would just add, what if the solution that comes forward has people getting off the bikeway before they get to the center and perhaps don't use Muzzy Street as the response?
Ms. Roach.
Madam Moderator, so again, the scope of the work is just to focus on connection from the bikeway in the center and then the bikeway closer to Camellia Place. That is what was highlighted in the bicycle and pedestrian plan, and so that's what we picked up for this high priority project. Through this, I look forward to, if approved, having many discussions with those who currently ride the bike path to the school and those who want to in the future to understand where are those connection points. It would make sense to me that they might get off closer to the center if that's what was most inviting and welcoming for them and safe to do so. But again, yes, the scope of the work would be those 2 points through the center and Camellia Place.
Sorry, Ms. McKenna.
Madam Moderator, what do you see as the competing interests of the center vis-a-vis having a bike lane of some kind through there or, down Muzzy Street or whatever?
Ms. Roach.
Sure. Madam Moderator, definitely on-street parking and how, if it was proposed to remove any on-street parking, the impact that would have on center businesses and residents in the area. That is, again, one of the suggested solutions in the bicycle and pedestrian plan is to remove on-street parking. So that would definitely be something that I would strongly review thoroughly before proposing. I think we're all well aware of the safety concerns in the center today. Yes, thanks.
Okay, Ms. McKenna, any follow-up?
Yep. So I just want to point out, other competing interests without going into a long list. One of them is the walking population. One of them is the historic aspects of the center. And in particular, the question that I have around that is I have noticed that there are green lines painted along Massachusetts Avenue. I don't believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, that anybody has gone to talk to the Historic Districts Commission about installing those green lanes. I'm not saying not installing the lanes, but actually to paint them green. So number one, I want to know whether that has happened. And number two, what would be the impact if the decision was that they shouldn't go through there, especially around the very heart of the center, which is the most historic place.
Thank you. Ms. Roach.
Sure, Madam Moderator. So to your question about the green painted bike lanes on Massachusetts Avenue, I was not involved in that, although when I look over to Town Engineer John Livesey, he shakes his head no to your question about that going through an approval process with the HC or the HDC. And I apologize, the second question?
Ms. McKenna.
Madam Moderator, the second question was if they weren't allowed to put the green lines, I'm not suggesting we don't put any lines, how would that impact your decision around that?
Sure. So
Ms. Roach, and Ms.
Sorry.
McKenna, your time is up. Ms. Roach.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. Again, we'll be meeting with many boards and committees. Sounds like I'll put HDC at the top of the list to meet through first to see what solutions they might prefer and definitely things that might be off the table. Again, if we learn early on in the process that the community and the boards and the committees we're meeting with are very much so against green painted bike lanes, again, we're going to consider if there's MUTCD compliant ways to bring bicyclists onto the roadway that aren't green painted bike lanes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Bartha?
Just as a point of order, just to clarify, these are good questions, and this is part of why the funding is requested to answer these questions. And we will go to the committees that we are required to go to as part of this process. It's unclear, and I'm making eye contact with the town attorney, whether the HDC would in fact have jurisdiction over line paint. So we'll sort all that out as part of the process.
Thank you. Olga Gutag in the public line.
Okay. Madam Moderator, through you to town meeting. Before I got elected to the school committee, I was actually considered one of the leading experts on bicycle, pedestrian, and inline skating safety in the state. So I know quite a bit about this project, about the issues of safety for bicyclists. And I think it is absolutely critical that we provide appropriate access to the high school from the bike paths, and also that we encourage as many citizens as we can to bicycle in our community. However, point number one, and this is the problem with independent articles in our town warrant, people tend to lose the concept that we are now pitting in our budget this proposal against being able to fund teachers or being able to fix potholes or other things. So please remember that we have one pot of money from where that money is coming from. Secondly, I wish I had $1 for every study that town paid incredible amount of money from 2000 on. I could pay my taxes for the rest of my stay in Lexington with that money. And we often do studies well before we can deliver the project, and by the time we are ready to build the project, things have changed, codes have changed, and the study gets completely chucked. One of the issues we have is, again, we have tremendous strain on our budget. We have lots of communities in the greater Boston areas which have done these studies, and I bet you, and again, I haven't done any research on this, but I bet you there is some community which has a similar layout of where the bikeway is or traffic for lots of bicycles and where people need to get to and how they get there. I would strongly recommend that rather than spending $180,000 on a study, the bike committee and the facilities committee and whoever else is involved in this particular project sit down, appoint 1 or 2 volunteers who fish around and see whether we can actually use somebody else's study. And then, instead of spending $180,000 on implementation, let's spend the minimum necessary amount that will require getting our kids safely to school. But I think that, again, this is about the money. Remember, you're pitting, this is 2 teachers' worth. And you have to decide.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Gutag. Ms. Crocker with a question.
Judy Crocker, Precinct 5. Question, please, through you, Ms. Moderator. Has the town looked at any grant money? There's Safe Streets for All, there's Safe Routes for School, there's Shared Streets for Grants. You know, there's a lot of different opportunities, and Lexington's been very fortunate in getting grants for this type of thing, particularly anything related to a school in the past. But it's been a little while since they put that hat in the ring, so thank you.
Ms. Roach.
Absolutely. Madam Moderator, so you listed off many of the grants that I have in mind. There's also a lot of MassDOT infrastructure grants that would be used towards construction funding rather than design. But yes, I look forward to pursuing grant opportunities for the study design and hopefully future construction implementation.
Okay. So,
Ms. Crocker.
Through you, Ms. Moderator. So is there any question why you didn't consider doing the whole package through a grant process and just construction?
Ms. Roach.
I am still not still considering, I will consider pursuing grant opportunities for the design as well. Yes.
Ms. Crocker.
Okay. Just sometimes this is done beforehand and not, you know, asking for a little bit of money and then going from there. Through you, Ms. Moderator, my second question is actually for the school committee. The MassDOT Safe Routes to School program has for many, many years inquired through the town Department of Health and Wellness, you know, if we're going to put in a bike path to the high school, let's beef up our education for bikes. And the program has Department of Elementary and Secondary accredited professional development and bike education that is appropriate for really grades K through 12. So just like to see if this is going to move forward along with all the infrastructure promises that we have, thanks to Mr. Livesey and the DPW and everyone else, you know, how we could kind of move this ball forward a little bit for the students.
Thank you. Ms. Jay.
Thank you, Ms. Crocker. That's a good suggestion. I think we always will want to have staff members working on that kind of education. I'm assuming that that would not have an extra cost. So I think it's definitely a suggestion that's worth considering if this goes through.
Thank you. Ms. Crocker, do you have any follow-up?
Just briefly, so just to be cognizant, just a comment, to be cognizant, you know, with the construction of the new school, where this terminus is going to be on Worthing Road near the front of the school, just being aware of the flow of the buses in and out, the flow of the traffic in and out, where the bike racks are being placed. Obviously, you might put more bike racks toward the front on Worthing Road to try to accommodate this, you know, in that kind of thing, just because of the traffic flow. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Black in the no line.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. Lauren Black, Precinct 8. I move the previous question.
Okay. Folks, Mr. Black is asking us to vote on whether we've heard enough debate. So we will wait for staff to put that voting screen together for us, and this will require a 2/3 vote. So the question comes on closing debate. All those in favor, whoops, excuse me. There we go. The question comes on closing debate. All those in favor of closing debate, press yes. All those who want to continue debate and discussion, press no. And please remember to press the blue cast your vote button and make sure you get the proper feedback. Would anyone like to vote by voice? And folks who are remote, unmute yourself in Zoom and let me know if you need to vote by voice. Okay, I'll close the vote. In this matter, 139 having voted in the affirmative, 20 in the negative, and 13 abstaining, the motion carries. It passes by more than the necessary 2/3. So, Ms. Roach, we typically ask if the presenter has any final comments before we move to a final vote.
Thank you for the opportunity. I do not. Just thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. Ms. Murphy, what's your point of order? Joyce Murphy, do you have a point of order? No, you're taking yourself out of that. Okay, so folks, we are going to move to a final vote on 12B. All those in favor of the motion under 12B, press yes. All opposed, press no. Please press the blue cast your vote button. Make sure you got the proper feedback. Anyone need to vote by voice? Anyone at home, unmute yourself in Zoom and get our attention. Betsy, Ms. Wise.
I vote yes.
Give us your precinct, please.
Oh, Betsy Weiss, Precinct 2.
Ms. Wise, Precinct 2 votes yes. You were already, you voted. It did register. Okay, let's close the vote. In this matter, 152 having voted in the affirmative, 17 in the negative, and 5 abstaining, the motion under 12B passes. Do we want to try to do 12C since it's a similar topic? Okay, I hear you. All right, Ms. Hay for a motion to adjourn until Wednesday, 7:30 p.m. That is April 8th in this hall and remotely. Ms. Hay.
Madam Moderator, I so move.
Are there any objections? Seeing none, we are adjourned. Thanks, everybody.
Something that's more like an event than a particular thing